All right, hi. Okay, so my story takes place in a 6th grade public school hallway. And I just wrapped up my 14th year of teaching this year. I know you're all, hold for applause. And I know you're all wondering, like, wow, he must have started at 11, and that is true. But this story takes place year 7. And I was interviewing at this really fancy school district, and I am not fancy, nor did I teach in fancy places. So I was very nervous and in my head, but I thought I did great in the interview, and I got the job, but I got feedback that I was a little too informal and that I needed to sort of step it up in that department. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch some Frasier, I'm gonna get this going. But I was so stiff, I wasn't myself, I was acting like a robot, and I feel like I was coming off really standoffish to my colleagues, and in particular, my teacher neighbor, Mr. J. He was the coolest. He was so great, he was so calm, he was never upset, and he was so friendly, and I was just like, yes, sir. And he was a great guy to have as a neighbor because I teach special education. And my kiddos sometimes have big feelings, so it can get loud, and he's always so accommodating and kind and patient. One day, a couple months in, I walk in, and it smells so bad in my classroom. It's horrible. And I have instructional aides, and they were like hunting for the smell, and we have a classroom refrigerator, and they located the smell. It was a Tupperware of old beans. Beans get stinky, y'all, like real bad. It was my Tupperware of beans, so I'm like, their fearless leader is like Mr. Stinky Bean Man, and I was so embarrassed, but it was like, what are you gonna do? So I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, let me throw this in the hallway trash can. That did not solve the problem because it was so horrendous, it made your eyes water. The whole hallway smelled so bad, and I just left it there. I go about teaching, and I hear lockers opening and closing left and right, and I hear Mr. J, and Mr. J doesn't sound happy, and he never doesn't sound happy. He made the entire hallway, there was 5 classrooms, all the kids come out, and he was like, somebody's gonna tell me who has something stinky in their backpack. And he had all the kids open up their lockers and search through their bags to try to find the stinky smell. Somebody finally figured out it was in the trash can, and they took the entire bin out. They probably burned it, I don't know. And they put it in the courtyard. There was an hour left in school. It was stinky dinky the whole hour. And we wrapped up, and I'm like, and I didn't know that was happening. I didn't know what the lockers were, but I was too into it. I was too into it once they were opening and closing it. My coworkers were like, are you gonna tell him? I was like, no, no. So I was like, all right, let me just get to my car after, I'll just run to my car and no one will be the wiser. I just won't bump into anyone, but who did I bump into? I bumped into Mr. J. And I'm not chill. I have no chill. So basically, he was upset. He was still visibly upset, and he was like, I just don't know who would do that. That was disgusting. It smelled so bad. And I was like, it was me. I did it. It was me. And he was speechless. And he is a man of many words, just like myself. And he looked at me and did this, and he walked back into his classroom. He didn't want to walk out with me. He loves leaving work. That's his favorite part of the day. And he chose to go back into the stink rather than be in my presence. And I was like, I can't quit because I have 2 kids and a mortgage, so I guess I'm just gonna keep coming back here. And then 2 days later, I was in the bathroom, and I was sitting, and it's, so sorry about that. And it's far away from the door, so if you don't lock it, you're and I didn't lock it, and he walked in, and he was like, I'm so sorry, and then I bumped into him again, and I was like, well, if there's anyone who's gonna walk in on me in the bathroom, I'm glad it was you. He was again speechless. And at this point, I'm like, this is gonna, I'm thinking, this is an HR issue. I'm getting fired. This has crossed the line. But this time, he was speechless and he stared at me. And then he started laughing. He was like, you're real strange, but you're okay, kid. You're gonna, He's like, you're gonna do fine, take a breath. And he was like, but maybe lay off the beans. So I didn't. But, you know, that moment, something about that, like, took the pressure off of me, and I finally started to act like myself, and I am very effervescent and charming, and like, I just started to bring that back, that energy back of just really just celebrating the absurd. Because if you're gonna make it 14 years in a public middle school setting, you must embrace the absurd, because every day is absurd. I'm about to tell my friend today this story, and our daughters are best friends. We're family at this point. Her daughter is my daughter. She's sitting right there. But I was about to tell it, and all context, all of like our little clan of kids that hang around us all the time, including my own two, call me Beams. But at the time, like when they were 2 and 3, they couldn't say it, so they said Beans. And out of nowhere, she was like, you know, remember when we were little and we called you Beans? Out of nowhere today. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. She was like, can I call you Beans? And I looked at my friend who knew the story, and I was like, I am Beans. I am Beans. And no way, right? Isn't that crazy? And in that, it caused this moment of reflection where I'm like, the only time I was able to really like thrive, once I was able to really thrive in this district and, you know, do right by my students and by my colleagues, is when I celebrated that I, in the classroom, am Mr. Beans. That's all I got.